Reviewing the Arrtx acrylic marker paint pen set. Hi there, thank you for joining me today. I am Natasha of Natasha Miller Creates, and today we are taking a closer look at the Arrtx acrylic marker paint pen set. These are a water-based paint pen with a double tip, which is a brush tip and a bullet tip. I have a set of 32 colors that I bought off of Amazon for $35, I believe. That is Canadian. And they also have a 24 color set as well. They are bright, vivid colors. It says the ink is non-toxic and odorless. And then they say that it is permanent and that it'll last for a long time. So I'm not sure if that means acid-free or not. I couldn't find any more information on it. What makes these acrylic paint pens unique for me is the brush tip that they have. I have Poscas, and if you've been here a while, you know I love using acrylographs. Acrylographs, they don't have the brush tip either. So I was very intrigued by these pens because of the brush tip. These pens are a black round barrel. They only have a number on it. They don't have the color name, but they do have the swatch sheet, which corresponds to the number on the pen. The pens also have a colored collar around them. I found these to be more or less accurate. More accurate for some colors than for others, but the others was not that many. So the barrel is smooth and round. The lid does have a notch in it, so you can position it so that it doesn't roll off your desk, which I thought was nice. These pens were a lot of fun to swatch. I do have the swatching videos the swatching footage at the end of this video. And they were really vivid. They look great on white. They look great on black. They work on Kraft paper as well. Maybe not as vivid as, say, the black or the white, but still they swatched really well, which was great. In terms of functionality, they are a paint pen. So to me, that means layering. It's one of the things I love about the acrylograph is that you can layer with one color and go in and layer over top of another. For the functionality test, I used a darker base, so I used a red base, and I used the light pink to go over top of the base. It isn't as opaque on the dark color, plus being that it's a water-based ink, I found that the red ink reactivated when I put the pink ink over top. This was whether I left it to dry for 10 minutes or even overnight. Overnight was a little bit better, but I still found some of red residue on my pink pen. They say that these pens dry very quickly. I want to say they do and they don't. If you're using them straight on your page, they aren't going to dry as quickly, but let's say if you're trying to paint with them with some water and a paintbrush, it dries very quickly. If that kind of makes sense. So I share one of my favorite techniques for using acrylographs, which I've linked up in the cards. But these guys, if you're using it in the same way, you have to be in there fast, so that you can blend it out. I did find they look really, really good when you blend them out with water. They are water-based, obviously, and they're super vivid straight out of the barrel, but when you're adding that water, it does soften up the color a little bit, and I think it looks really pretty. I was really happy with the results. Using these to blend, I found some issues. They don't blend as well together as I would like. The gradient isn't as smooth. Again, they dry very quickly, and so you have to put a lot of ink down to kind of get that smooth blend, but it's not as smooth. Maybe if I take a paintbrush in and give that a try, but straight off the bat on the page together, not the best blend. Okay, so next I wanted to kind of get to the pros and cons list. I call it the good, the bad, and the in-between. So the in-between is stuff that it's not a deal breaker for me. So in-between would be the numbers on the barrel, not including the color. That's pretty standard for all paint pens, so I can't really say that's a con for these when the industry as a whole doesn't really do that. The other personal con, which is an in-between for me, I thought that there were, well, it's a great variety of colors. There are a lot of blues. There are two blues that are very similar. It would have been nice to see more oranges in there. Again, that's not specific to this brand. across the board, orange is lacking. Lately, I've been using more and more orange in my work, and I'm finding that very few brands have a really nice range of orange. I'm looking at you, Tombo, in the back of my shoulder here. But so that again is an in-between personal for me. Next up, the brush tip. Well, I absolutely love the brush tip. It is very soft and flexible, which means if you're starting out, it's going to take a little bit of an adjustment to kind of be able to get the control of that brush tip. Again, that's not a pro or con, that's just in between. I also found that once the pen dried, it had a bit of a chalky feel to it. A lot of Posca's the same, I believe. And so you just want to be careful when you're going in with a fine liner or outlining over top. You might pick up some of that residue on your pen tip, and then your pen's not going to work as well. I pen tested my swatches in 160 GSM Archer and Olive paper, and I found there to be some ghosting and some warping of the page. So if you're using anything thinner than 160 GSM, you just want to watch for that. And those are my personal little, they're not deal breakers, they're just would have been nice to have. But now we'll get into the pros and the cons. So the absolute biggest pro for me, you don't have to shake these. I am trying to wrap my head around what the formula must look like, but there's no shaking. So with the acrylographs, with the Posca's, with a lot of other brands I've tried, there's a lot of shaking. There's no shaking with this guy. Like, it's amazing. I actually didn't realize how much I'd appreciate that until I had it. The colors are so vivid and bright, and they just pop off the page, which I thought was a really nice touch. And almost across the board, I found that. There was maybe yellow, which didn't pop as much, but that's pretty standard for a yellow, to be honest. So yeah, I just loved how vivid the colors were. I thought that they were a super reasonable price, $35 for 32 pens, so just over $1 a pen. So that was great. And then I also just love that they have a brush tip. That brush tip is so versatile for if you're doing lettering or if you're doing some painting. I do appreciate the brush tip on the pen. There were a lot of brown and neutral tones in this set, and I thought that was really, really great. I'm going into my next bullet journal setup, and I will be using a lot of brown. I thought that was a really nice touch, especially if you're using this to color in people, you have that wide variety of skin tone, which is great. I think the packaging is pretty good. It's not too bulky as the pen trays stack on top of one another. And then I thought the color color on the barrel is great because it's very obvious to see what the color is, or at least if you know you're reaching for that specific color, you can see it pretty easily. Okay, so for the cons, I am not a big fan of the bullet tip, and that is because they're not very consistent across the pens. Some of the bullet tips are juicier, some are drier, and you just don't know. There's not that consistency. So I thought that was kind of irksome. But again, I bought these pens primarily for the brush tip. But yeah, so just keep that in mind. If you're buying them for the bullet tip, you're not going to get the same level of saturation. So while the color on the pen is a pro, it's not the same, it's not matching for all the pens. So like I said, there are two blues that are very similar, and so if you're reaching, you might want to keep those blues separate so that you don't reach for the wrong blue. So yes, well, it's nice to have the colors. It'll be even better if they actually match the color, or at least match the color closer. I was disappointed in how the pens layer on top of each other. I did mention that in the previous section of the video. It would be nice if they layered better. Again, not a huge deal breaker, but just that was kind of disappointing to me. And then the blending as well was disappointing. It would have been nice if you could get a smoother blend. Like I said, they're kind of weird because they dry fast, but they don't. I guess to say they dry fast when you first put them on the page, the ink soaks into the page pretty quickly, but then there's like that thin top layer of paint that just takes a little bit longer to dry, but it's not a wet enough ink to allow for smooth blending. So those were the pros, the cons, and the in-between. My final thoughts about these pens. So as you know, I'm a die-hard acrylograph user, And honestly, I didn't want to like these pens, but I actually ended up loving them. Well, there are some issues. I think they're super easy to work around, and I'm actually really excited to use these. Probably not going to use them in my bullet journal, but most likely going to use them for my art journaling and some other projects that I have going on, just to see how well the ink works and how fun it is to illustrate and draw with. So yeah, these were a surprise to me. I was actually really happy with them. Let me know down below if you've tried these and if you liked using them. If you're interested in grabbing these, I do have a link down below that you can take a look. I purchased this with my own money. This is not a sponsored post. This is my own personal opinion. And so I hope you enjoyed today's video. I am now sharing the swatching videos where I swatch it on white paper, blackout paper, and Kraft paper. And again, let me know down below what you think of these pens, if you've used them or if you are going to check them out. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you in the next one. For more bullet journaling content and art content, you can check out these videos.